Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Aaron, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over my recruiting process for my business. When I was running presentations for College Pro and running training sessions, I would do a session on recruiting. So I would talk about how to source candidates, the overall recruiting process, how to do setup calls, conduct interviews, and how to hire people. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the same presentation that I would talk at these training seminars. The agenda for this session: recruiting process, finding candidates, creating a social media post, the two key parts of recruiting, screening calls, interviews, and some takeaways. For the recruiting process, you have it as this. So applicant generation, you have the setup call, you have the interview, you have the reference check, which is optional. If it's a student summer job and they have very minimal experience, I don't even care to do a reference check, but if it's going to be someone like a manager role or someone going to be running a crew, I'll definitely check a couple references. And then hiring. Okay, so finding applicants. So there's tons of different ways to find applicants, and in this session we talk about, all the different ways to generate and have people come up with some ideas of where they can find candidates. So you have the easy ones, right? Online job ads, you have like LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all those types. Social media, right? Your Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whoever you know. Networking, so people you know. Referrals is a really great source of candidates. I found hiring friends could be hit or miss. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not so great, but hiring friends of friends was always great because they'll respect you like a boss because they don't know you, but they'll treat you and become friendly with you over time because your friends already like them. So I thought referrals from friends, like networking, was a really great way to hire people. So what makes a good post? If you're going to make a post for social media, it's something short. You just want basic info out there. If it's a summer window cleaning job like what we would sell, it's working outside. You talk about your hourly rate, performance bonuses, and then a quick call to action, right? DM me for more info, shoot me a message, stuff like that. Here's an example. So this is Emma. This is a really good post that she made through her Instagram. Short, sweet, and then a call to action. This is probably the most important part of recruiting, the two key parts of recruiting. And this is where it stumped a lot of people when we'd ask this. So who knows the two key parts of recruiting? A lot of people get the first one, which is selection. That's easy enough. Is the candidate qualified? Can they do the job, right? Are they a good fit? That's one everyone usually gets. But the second part of recruiting people don't typically get is actually probably one of the most important parts. So pause this right now if you want to guess what you think the next part of recruiting is. Okay, did you get it? You have a guess? Okay, well, if you guessed it right, I'd be pretty impressed. But the second part of recruiting is selling. Not only do you have to qualify the candidate and select them, you have to sell them on working with you. Why should they work for you? They have a ton of different job opportunities out there. Why should they work for you? So you really got to sell them on the position. So that's a big part of it as well. What are you looking for in a candidate? To me, experience does matter a little bit, but if it's a student job, if you're, a student company like we were, where we're running a summer crew for a window cleaning business, I typically don't care as much about experience in the traditional sense versus what type of person are they, right? I look for values. Is this someone I can get a beer with, is the old saying, right? And what aren't you looking for? What don't you want in a candidate? So that's good things to have as well. For selling, you want to find out the candidate's needs. What do they need? What are they looking for in a job? Because if you find out what they need, what they like and don't like about previous jobs they've had, you can really match what they like and don't like to the job that you're offering. Now, you're not going to lie and say, yeah, this is an amazing, crazy job. Because then, if you hype it up too much and then you have them go and start working with you, they might see a disconnect and go like, you know what, this is not for me, and they're going to quit. So it's not about lying at all. You just basically want to highlight the parts of the job that you think would work best with them based on what they've told you in the interview process. So you want to match their needs to the features and benefits of the position that you're offering. And by the way, if you don't think it's a good fit, don't hire this person, right? So it's got to make sense. Objections too is important. What's holding them back from taking on the job? How do you overcome that? And when you should and shouldn't, right? If someone's looking to make like $30 an hour, but my job is only offering $17 an hour, that's an objection I don't think I can overcome because I'm not going to go up on the price, and they're probably going to continue looking for a different job that pays that much if that's what they're looking for. Some you can overcome, right? So sometimes you have some objections where, oh man, I have a summer vacation planned in July. Well, how long's the vacation? Oh, it's only, a week and a half. Can you live with that employee being gone for a week and a half out of the 16 weeks in the summer? Yes, then that's an objection I would overcome. So I want to talk about the setup calls real quick. What is the purpose of the setup call? It's very simple. If you want to guess it, pause it right now. Guess it. Okay, did you pause it? Okay, so the setup call, the purpose is to get the candidate into an interview. You put up a job ad, you put it up online, you're getting a bunch of resumes coming through, you see some good candidates, you're reaching out to them. This is the reaching out part, setting up the call. So the purpose of that is to get them in the interview, if it makes sense, right? They have to be qualified. I want to show quickly just a basic setup call script. This is one that we use. This is one I would give to my regional managers in my business, the ones that were head of different areas, and they would, be responsible for recruiting for their team. Make it yours, right? Based on your job. For the intro, the setup call, just calling them, asking them, hey, is this John? Hey, John, this is Aaron calling from College Pro. How are you doing? Just calling you because you applied for a position to work with us this summer. Do you have a few minutes to chat? If you have some ability to build rapport here, it's really good. And what rapport is basically just finding common ground. Maybe they went to the same high school as you. Maybe they went to a camp that you went to. Maybe their interest list on their resume is something that you're interested in. It's good to just kind of find common ground quickly on a call. Needs. So the next step, you want to ask what they liked and they didn't like about their previous experience. You don't have to go through everything. Just maybe the last one or the one that's most relevant. Just ask, hey, I saw that you did landscaping last summer. Can you tell me what you liked about that position? And, typically people will tell you, well, it was good to work outside. I worked with a friend. It was really nice, stuff like that. You're just trying to gauge their needs, right? If they tell you anything, write that down. Just jot that down somewhere so that you can remember. So take notes as you're speaking with the candidate. These are, needs that you can sell later, of course. Objections are good to squash out right away. So, what are some deal breakers? Anything maybe you didn't like about the position that you're looking not to do this summer? Qualifying is really important. It's so important to do this in the call because you can waste a lot of time setting up interviews with unqualified candidates. And write down different qualifications that you really need to make sure. So before we talk about potential interview, let me ask you a few questions. Where will you be living this summer is a good question if you're doing a summer job. Available for 40 hours a week or whatever the amount that you're looking for is. Do they have transportation? Can they get to the area that you're interviewing for, right? So if they live 3 hours away, they don't have a car, it's probably not going to work out, and so you should end that call there. There's no shame in ending a call to someone that's not qualified, right? So that's why you ask these questions. Once they pass all that, they sound good, everything looks good, you want to go into the job description. And so I'm not going to read out this description for the job that we would work with. So that's window cleaner. So we'd hire students for our summer window cleaning team, but you can interchange this with any job description that you're applying for. So if you run a landscaping company or a painting company, you would just talk briefly. And again, I want to keep it brief. You're not selling the candidate on this role yet. You're just basically saying, this is the opportunity, this is who we are, what we're looking for. And then you just want to ask, do you have any questions so far, anything you want to clarify? And then closing, you basically want to say, based on what I told you, do you think this position is a good fit? And if they say yes, ask them why. Why do you think you'd be a good fit for this role? It's good because then they start to have to sell you a little bit on why they should work for you. And then once that sounds good, you say, great. So the next steps. So I would schedule an interview as soon as possible. So if you say, hey, I'm doing interviews this week, maybe in a couple days from now, try to find a schedule with them. You don't want to say, I'll call you back or I'll email you a time or whatever. Find that on the phone, what time works for them. Ask them to pull up their calendar. Find a good time for the interview if you want to interview them. In person is always great. Before COVID, that was the standard. But if you want to use something like Zoom, Google Meets, that's fine too. And then send off. So you want to close out the call, basically saying, thanking them for their time, telling them that you're looking forward to seeing them as well. And then if they need anything, they can let you know. Then you want to, right away, create a Google Calendar invite, have the link to the Zoom meeting or Google Meets meeting if they're doing it online, or have the address for the place, maybe a Tim Hortons or something local. For all the American people, Tim Hortons is like our Dunkin' Donuts essentially. So if you want to meet up at a coffee shop to do an interview, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so that's the setup call. That's what that looks like. And then now going into the interviews. So now you set up a bunch of interviews. You want to now interview these candidates. So what are the two objectives of the interview? You got to sell the candidate on working for you, and you want to determine if they are qualified. Let's look at the interview prep sheet here, and don't worry about memorizing any of this stuff. You can just pause the video, take some screenshots if you want to look at it. Again, this is the stuff that I would give my regional managers, the students that would work with me and run crews for me. I would give them this material so that they can go out and they can conduct interviews. I'm going to go over the general structure of an interview. The first 5 minutes is going to be all about rapport. So when someone comes in, stand up, shake their hand, or if it's on Zoom, the first 5 minutes, it's really what you want to do is establish common ground. You don't want to just go right into selling the job or right into, selection, asking questions. That's going to be really jarring, and it's going to keep, candidates are typically nervous, and it's going to keep them nervous and kind of on edge. But if you can sit down with a candidate and you go, hey, how's it going? Ask how was the drive in, or how was your day so far? How was the week going? If you see something on the background, let's say you're doing a Zoom meeting and you see they've got a poster in the background, ask them about that. I would do that a lot. I see people with like a poster on there, maybe like a sports team, stuff like that. I just want to find common ground. So if they're into sports, talk about that. If they're into something else, talk about that. If you see something that you can connect with, that's really important. Before you do this, it's good always to just tell them a little bit about the interview. So after you do the rapport for 5 minutes, I would go into, hey, just so you know, this is how the interview is going to work. I'm going to initially ask you some questions just to get a sense of, what you're looking for, what you liked before previous positions. I'll give you some opportunities to ask any questions that you have about this role. I'll go into describing the role and talk about the different parts of it that we're looking for. And then I'll ask you some more interviewing questions to make sure that you're a good fit. And then at the end of that, if you have any questions, we can go over that, and I'll let you know what the next steps are. So just giving them a brief outline, setting logistics for the meeting is really important. And then you want to selling the role, or in my opinion, I like to call it like needs gathering. This is where you want to find like any needs or objections that they have at the beginning of the interview. Yeah, you want to find out what they're looking for, hours wise, dollar wise, stuff like that. If they have any questions, it's good to get that out first. So if there's anything lingering in their mind, you want to kind of clear that. So if someone's thinking about, am I going to have to work on, skyscrapers for these window cleaning, and they ask you that right away, it's good to ease their mind. Go, oh, no, we just do residential or whatever. Then you're going to go into describing the role, and then you're going to do selection for the role, talking about, interview questions, past performance to indicate future behavior. That's really important. If they have any income goals specifically, you can align them on that. Good to set expectations as well, what you're looking for. If there's any objections, you can revisit it, talk about it with the candidate. If there's any needs, what excites them about the position, potentially joining the team, it's always good to end kind of close to that so they can hype yourself up. Like, what are you looking forward to the most? And then a trial close. What a trial close is basically asking, hey, if I decide, to put you on the team, is there anything that would hold you back from accepting the role? And if so, like what would that look like? It's a good to ask that at the end of the interview too, to see how you did on selling the role. Because if a candidate's saying, well, I'd still have to think about it, then you might not have sold it on them, or there might be an objection there that you didn't come across earlier in the meeting. And so it's good to get those objections out now. If they say, I'd say yes right away, sounds like a good opportunity, then you sold the role well, and someone's answer. So it's really good to have that. And then setting up the next step. So if it's like a major role for like a crew leader, if you're doing an assistant manager or regional manager, then you probably want to have more than one interview for sure. But if it's just a window technician, a summer student position, one interview is usually typically fine. So setting next steps, let them know like when you'd be following up with them, when you're going to give them a call to let them know about your decision. I say next day is the best. So especially if you're doing a summer student position, I find that students are doing interviews all the time, and typically they'll just take first good offer that they get. So you don't want to set it like, I'll call you next week, because they might already have other offers on the table, or they might get another interview and hired in the meantime. If you like someone, you think they're good, the trial close, they said, yeah, they're interested, call them the next day or the day after to set that up. And then you always want to end up on some rapport as well too. So ask them, do you have any plans this weekend? That's awesome, cool, stuff like that, right? Okay, and then here's some interview notes to just help you with that overall framework. Notes from the screening call, what interests them, right? So based on what you know so far, like what has you coming to the interview today, other than like a good paycheck, what are you looking for to get out of the summer? What's the most enjoyable experiences that you had? It's really good to ask likes and dislikes about previous jobs to find out like what they really like. Anything that has them nervous, is there anything that, have you a little bit unsure about the position so far? Any significant time commitments that you have, it's good to get those two out of the way. Once you've gathered all their needs, you find out like what they like, what they don't like, you can go into the job description. Now, again, this is a job description for a typical window technician for a summer window cleaning job with us at College Pro, but you would make it your own, make it for whatever job that you're offering. The best part though for this job description is you want to highlight their needs throughout. So if a candidate earlier told you, I really liked working outside landscaping, then you definitely want to mention that, hey, this is an outside job this summer, we get to work with our hands, we get to be physically fit. That's something I know you said that you liked at your previous job, so I just wanted to mention it. That's good to make sure you match the needs to the job description. But an even higher level of that is asking them why they think they would be a good fit based on what you told them. So if you go through and talk about, we get to work outside, it's washing windows, we get to talk to people, every day is different. How do you think you'd like working in an environment like that? If you ask questions like that, like what do you like best about the description I've talked about so far, they start selling you a little bit on the role. Right? Remember I talked about the two aspects of recruiting is selling and selection. So this is a good part of selling, is actually get them to sell it for you. So I would definitely do that. And then you want to go into talking about the pay. How do they get paid? After that, you can go and do more in-depth interview questions. So here's a list of some, what are some strengths, weaknesses? Those are classic, right? Any customer service experience you've had before. Tell me about a time where you had experience, hitting goals, or tell me about a time you were in a difficult position. How did you overcome that? I like questions about previous experience, overcoming adversity. In my opinion, if a recruiter's ever asking you, hypothetical questions like, what would you do in this scenario? right? How would you handle a customer complaint? It's so easy to get those answers right. You can just say, oh, I do the best possible thing ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would do what's perfect or what's expected. I'd follow the guide, right? Don't do hypothetical questions. If you were an interviewer, if you're a recruiter, if this might be your first interview you're ever doing, just stick to questions that talk about previous experience. Right? If you're asking someone, how did you overcome adversity in the past? Tell me about it. Tell me about a previous position where you had a little bit of a leadership experience. Tell me about some deadlines that you had to work really hard to get to. Ask for specific experience. When people talk from experience, then you know, like, it's true, or at least it's a good, accurate representation of what the future performance might be. Right? If you ask hypothetical questions that they can answer just like, yeah, I would do the best possible job for you, it really doesn't mean anything. So ask questions based on previous experience to indicate future performance. So you can go into expectations, any objections, ask them, at their point, is there anything that might be holding you back from taking this role? You can land on needs. So, what about the position do you think you really like about it? Trial close, if I were to offer you this role, how would you feel about that? If they say anything but yes, then you might have an objection there, so you want to dig in a little bit more. Next steps, tell the candidate, once you have a decision, you'll let them know. Tell them when. So if you're meeting with them on a Wednesday, say, hey, by Friday, I'll have an answer for you and I'll give you a call. And then you definitely want to end off the meeting on a positive note with some rapport. So if you talked about, what your plans are, or if you have a sports team that you follow that you share in common, just, you can end on something like that. And then right after the interview is done, you shake their hand, they say goodbye, or they log off if it's an online interview. Just jot down really quickly, what'd you like most about the candidate? What were some challenges that the candidate that you didn't really like too much, right? So some positives and negatives. This will be really good to weigh out when you're deciding on a candidate. So that's the overall recruiting process. I would teach this recruiting process to new students that were starting College Pro and starting to run their first window cleaning business for the summer. So if you're someone who's never recruited before, I would follow these steps to ensure that you hire good qualified candidates. So getting applicants through social media, referrals, networking, online, and then I would call them with a setup call to qualify the candidate, to get them into an interview, complete the interview, whether it's in person or on Zoom, and then follow up with them to either tell them yes or tell them no, that you're not going to move forward with them. If you follow that process, you can take these templates, make them your own, and apply it to your business. You can find good quality candidates. People are the lifeblood of business. You want to make sure that you're hiring good quality candidates because that's the people that are going to be talking to your customers every day. That's going to be people you're going to see all the time. If you find good people to work with, your business will thrive. Your customers will be happy, you'll be happy, and you'll also bring along a lot of people that you get to meet and work with, and that's always a pleasure. So if you have any questions about recruiting, anything that was a little confusing in this video, please send me a comment or let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck with finding a team for your business.